following program is intended for mature audiences.
Hey, these uniforms are lame, man.
This is the new I'll be back. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
I don't understand what that means.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
I've got basically the resistance conspiracy theory to float by you.
Well, let's go.
See what
Let's not even wait. Let's pick it up with that.
All right. So our glorious leader, El Presidente Trump.
El Presidente, I like that.
El Presidente Trump is going to be the first president since Reagan to miss the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And, of course, Reagan only missed because he was shot.
Which is a pretty good excuse, I think, not to be there.
Yeah. Now, common, wisdom says that Trump's not going because he's notoriously thin-skinned and can't handle all the mockery.
Oh, excuse me.
Because it's basically a giant roast.
Right.
The conspiracy theory that I wanted to float by, the real reason he's not going.
Okay.
Donald Trump has already declared the media the enemy of the people.
Yes.
He's going to have almost every high-profile reporter in Washington in one place, and he won't be there.
That's what I'm trying to tell you about.
Are we talking like maybe a, I can never think of the name of the Nazi Germany thing. The
Reichstag fire
thing.
plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Are you looking at something like that, you think, maybe?
Yeah. He bombs Correspondents' Dinner, kills off most of the Washington journalist establishment, blames it on, Muslim terrorists or something. Boom.
I want to laugh at that, and I want to say, wow, that's
But
really
you can't
good.
dismiss it.
Can't dismiss it. And you know what? You can't even dismiss it. Like, normally you could say, okay, there's a 5% of that. You go, okay, 95% I'm sure it's not going to happen. 5% maybe. This one's more like, yeah, that's 50-50, I'm thinking. Probably.
So, listenership, if Greg and I vanish mysteriously, you'll know what happened.
Oh, screw that. If it happens, you heard it here first. We just put it down it's on record now. We predicted it.
No, I know. I know, but I'm just assuming that they've hacked into everything, and so we're probably going to die.
This whole thing is such a clown show. It's unbelievable. I don't even. Yeah. I try to pay attention to it, and it's just so disheartening. I can't. I just step away.
Have you heard? He's doing some speech tonight. I'm not sure. It's not a State of the Union address, I don't think.
No,
because that's halfway through the term, right?
No, they usually do that on the 20th of January or thereabouts, but because it's usually they don't do one, obviously, because he doesn't know what the State of the Union is when he's inaugurated. Like he'll do one next year in January, but yeah, he doesn't do one his first year.
Okay, so but he is doing some sort of speech tonight. I admit I'm not entirely sure what the function is, but he's giving a speech. And the one thing people want him to address is the fact that he has been pretty silent on the fact that he hasn't said anything to denounce the anti-Semitic bomb threats being leveled against JCC centers across the country or the desecration of Jewish cemeteries.
Well,
yes.
Why would he? I mean, that's going to go against his constituents if he does that. Let's be honest about it. Look, I'm not going to say that the overwhelming majority of the people that voted him into office are anti-Semites, but let's not kid ourselves. I'm going to say that a good 20% of them that voted him in are, and that's a sizable portion of the voting populace.
Exactly. And so people have been, wondering if he's finally going to address that tonight. So we'll see. But the more broader issue about tonight's speech is that it's going to be between 60 to 80 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know what the hell. Like,
has he ever given a speech that long in his life?
I don't. What is there to say?
Well, not only that, but. Look, whatever you may think of him, whatever he's done and everything else, I think we all can agree he's not the most engaging public speaker that we've had come down the pike.
No. And Trump has strengths as a public speaker, but they tend to be towards short, kind of campaign rally type stuff, not sort of long, dude's not Winston Churchill who's going to put on a display of masterful oratory.
No, you're not going to get oratory. You're going to get a lot of, well, normally what you get with a Trump speech is you get a lot of quick blasts.
Exactly, and that's fine, if you're at a rally and you've only got 15 minutes to get up there, say your catchphrases and then move on. But I don't know what this is going to say. I'm probably not going to watch it live, but I am going to look forward to reading the recaps tomorrow because that should be fascinating.
Well, I got to be honest with you, man. I mean, I know that we're mostly in jest when we talk about the correspondence of being gathered in one place, but, the fact that we even look at that and think, yeah, that's not as crazy as it sounds. It's not even close to as crazy as it would have sounded even 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you go, this is where we are now. This is the world we live in, where you could posit a theory like that, and I go, yeah, I could see it. I mean, imagine if we'd said that in 2012 after Obama got reelected. People are like, what the fuck is wrong with these two? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a weird world that we live in, man, and I blame it all on the internet. We were supposed to get smarter, and instead, I don't know where we went off the rails, but somewhere along the way, the information age turned everybody into a bunch of blithering idiots, and I don't know how it happened, but it sure did.
And the worst part about it is that it's all willful ignorance. Because
yes.
The means to educate yourselves, it is all there, but people just don't take advantage of it. I guess. Other than
something else I want to talk about with Trump too, and now you got to remember what it was. You were talking about the media being the enemy and all that. The people on the boards know this, but certain people on the boards know I did this, but the listeners don't. I took that quote, the tweet that he sent out, and I sent an email to every representative and senator that is in my district in Ohio, et cetera, et cetera. So far, I've gotten asking them, do you agree with President Trump's assertion that the media is the enemy of the American people? Mm-hmm. And I've gotten exactly one answer from Ohio State Senator Randy Gardner sent me an answer back that simply said, the media is an essential part of the First Amendment. Well, thanks for that. I'm glad you pointed that out to me because I really wasn't aware of that before I sent the email, dumb fuck. And it was about as non-committal a non-answer as you could find. And that bothers me because I know that you have to have a certain amount of party loyalty, but this thing is so far beyond the pale that I don't care if he's a Republican or what. Somebody's got to step up, man. I mean, I'm tired of trying to play this like fairly. I'm tired of trying to play it like I'm open-minded about it. I'm not anymore. Nope. We've got a lunatic in the Oval Office in the United States of America. There's no two ways about it. I don't give a fuck if you voted for him. You thought he was the greatest thing ever. You were wrong. I don't want to tell you were stupid. I don't want to say I told you so. I would love to talk to you and explain to you why I think you're wrong. I don't know that I told you so and getting up and beating our chest and going, we told you. That's not probably the best approach to take. But still, I can't pretend anymore that there is a chance this is going to end well. I just can't do it. And I'm done trying to walk the fine line between just constantly firing off hot takes about the president and trying to be, even-handed about it. I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to anymore. So that's my announcement on the show. I'm sorry. I'm not on board with any of this. And you guys, he's nuts. There's no other way to put it. So And no, the media are not the enemy of the American people, you fucking idiot. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you know who came to the media's defense?
No.
Recently. George W. Bush.
Oh, yeah.
That's the world we're living in. George W. Bush, everyone, is the voice of reason.
Well, you want to know what else about George W. Bush? Think about this for a second. How great would it be to have him back at this point?
I know. I spent most of my formulative years in politics thinking George Bush was the devil.
Yeah, me too.
I thought he was the worst.
Yeah,
he was terrible. And now, oh my God.
He seems so reasonable and so, dare I say it, I don't want to say intelligent because that makes it sound like I never thought he was intelligent. I always thought he was a lot smarter than he let on. I think he played the good old boy, have a beer with me thing. He played it beautifully, and it worked. It appealed to his base in a beautiful way. And, Karl Rove is an evil genius, and it all worked out. But President Bush II, by comparison to what we have now, seems like freaking FDR. And let's be honest about it, President Bush II wasn't a great president, but by comparison, look at the difference here. But that's the thing. Everybody, when this whole thing started, everybody's like, it's time to get somebody that's an outsider in there, and we need someone that's not, caught in the muck and mired down in all the political bullshit. Well, okay, that's fine. It's a perfectly legitimate viewpoint to have, but look what you get when you do that. And I don't know who, somebody on the boards always brings it up. It's like calling a plumber because you need your tooth pulled. That's what we did here. We said, hey, we've got a toothache, better get the plumber on the job.
Donald Trump also said in reference to Obamacare, because the latest Republican
I saw this too.
the latest Republican proposal to repeal Obamacare has actually faced stiff Republican opposition because, well, nobody in the GOP actually knows what to replace it with, and two, nobody's entirely sure how to even go about repealing it. And so I think this was the worst thing possible for the GOP because they spent like not 8 years, maybe around maybe 6 years going on about how they were going to repeal Obamacare, and then they finally get the votes to do it, and now it's like, well, you're telling me as a party you talked about doing this for 6 years, and now that you can actually do it in that 6-year time span, you never worked out a strategy for doing it efficiently? Like, that just seems mind-boggling. But what's even funnier is that after this latest attempt kind of ran into some roadblocks, Trump mused, who knew healthcare was so complicated?
I know.
You run a business, don't you?
See, I don't think he does. That's the thing, too. He's got this reputation as being this brilliant businessman. He really isn't. What he is, he's a good hype man. He's a good pitch man. That's what he was good at. To sit down and do the nuts and bolts, dot the I's, cross the T's type business deal, I don't think he was ever good at that. I think it would confuse the living daylights out of him to have to sit down and do a big business deal. So he was a good hype man on the campaign trail. That's what got him the gig. But you know what? After you're done with doing all the hype stuff, you've got to be able to do the job. And he is so woefully inept at this job that it would be funny if it were happening somewhere else, but it's not. It's happening in my country, and I don't know what to do about it. All I can do is just do what we've been doing, resist. Do basically the resistance thing and just keep going. But man, oh man, it's just it's like a tragic comedy of some sort. I don't even know how to describe it anymore. It's too depressing to follow. I know that.
All I can say is that history is a harsh mistress. So. Well, Donald Trump and those supporting them better keep that in mind.
Well, not only that, but going back to President Bush II for a minute here, if nothing else, he's got to sit back and go, well, you know what? I'm not going down as the worst president ever anymore. I mean, that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be like, hey, I'm off the hook, man.
Not only is he – well, I would actually argue that even without Trump, I don't think he was the worst president ever.
No, probably not.
I'm just going to say, you look – in the immediate Civil War era, but like the presidents right before Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
Like those guys were pretty goddamn bad. And those guys led to the inevitable breakup and the bloodiest conflict in American history. So, all of you liberals who want to jump on W, all of you conservatives who want to jump on Obama, no, they're not the worst presidents of all time. It's Franklin Pierce and it's James Buchanan. Those are the worst presidents of all time, and that's a fact. Those are facts. All right.
I would agree with that.
George Bush never led to the dissolution of the Union. And here's the thing: I'm not convinced Donald Trump won't.
No, you know what? Again. It's something that we talk about and we joke about, but the fact of the matter is that it has a more of a tinge of reality to it than it's ever had since the 1860s, or the 1850s, I should say, where you could say something like that. And back then they were like, well, maybe. And now we're back to, and maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. It's certainly a possibility. But right now, when you say something like, this could be, we could see the nation splitting up, I go, yeah, maybe. Whereas before I'd be like, nah. I mean, even under Bush, people would be like, oh, my God, we're going to split in that. You knew it was never going to happen.
Or like when Obama was reelected and you had all those states like petitions to secede. It's like, okay, that's just people being stupid. That's not going to happen.
Right. But, believe me, here's my question. You've got Democrats and liberals like me sitting here talking about, I'd love to have President Bush back. I wonder how many Republicans wish Obama was back in office right now. I mean, how much buyer's remorse is out there, do you think? I think a lot.
I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot than it might appear at first, because you've got a lot, because obviously you don't want to, if he's nominally on your team, I think it's still too early in the game for a lot of people to either admit to other people or themselves that this was a mistake. But I do think it's more than you're perhaps seeing. You've even got some anchors on Fox News who have gone rogue and who have come out against it. So I gotta say, the midterms be interesting. Not so much for the seat changes, because I think that the way that, because it's not every seat that's up every time there's a congressional election, right? So I think that the way it breaks up is that the Democrats actually are kind of at a disadvantage, because most of the seats that are up for re-election are Democrats anyway. So the best they can do is maybe gain a few seats here or there. Like, they can't flip the board, essentially. But
I thought the House was up every 2 years across the board. The Senate is spread out. That you're right about. The Senate. I thought the House was spread out. Well, anyway, the thing that I'm most interested in is going to be state elections, to see if one, if there is an anti-Trump wave, and two, if it goes so far as to affect state levels. Well, the funny thing about state elections is that, and this is a phenomenon that they talked about, I want to say in 2008 maybe, where, when there was the big Republican backlash, might have even been in 2006, I don't remember, but when there was the big Republican backlash, there's this weird phenomenon with voters where it's like, I don't like Republicans except for mine, he's okay. And that's why you didn't see the movement in the elections like you thought you might. And obviously there was still a pretty big movement in the, I think it was the 06 midterms. But it wasn't quite the clean sweep you thought it was going to be, because there were so many people who thought, okay, the Republican in the next district over, that guy's a jackass and he needs to go, but my guy's all right. And there was a lot of that, and that's why a lot of people, you looked at and you went, how in the world did they keep their job? Well, it was because the constituents in that particular district said, our guy is one of the good guys. It's all the other ones that are the problem. And when you have a bunch of people thinking like that, nothing moves. I don't think we're going to see that this time, but the state elections are going to be very interesting. But again, that's where I go back to it's the national Republicans. I don't know that we're going to see much movement in that, because.
Well, I'm curious to see how much of that mentality of, it's the national Republicans who are bad. I want to see how much it's actually going to affect people at the state level.
Right,
because
I agree.
I think because generally, yeah, and in Canada you see a lot of that too, where, like, for example, the Liberals might sweep a provincial election in one province, but then the Conservatives will win most of the ridings of that province come election day, just as an example. And so it's kind of hard to gauge it, because there is a disconnect between, state or provincial level and federal level politics. But I think that if the backlash is strong enough, it can definitely reverberate down to the local levels.
My girlfriend brought up something, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where she said, you got to say this much about Trump. He's doing all the things he said he was going to do.
Oh, he's not repealing Obamacare, because it turns out
it's complicated.
Healthcare is a bit complicated. So
the whole thing's nutty. Like I said, I try to go to the thread, and I get in there, and it's just like it's just too depressing for me. I'm curious to see the speech too. It's going to be. I want to see him try to talk for 80 minutes. That's going to be fucking hysterical. I'm sorry.
Not to get us started on an NBA discussion, I'm just curious to see how the Thunder and Warriors are doing.
The Warriors, I believe, are already at 50 wins for the season. I think.
Oh, that's good for them.
Yeah.
If Kevin Durant wins an NBA title like that, it's going to be the most disappointing. It's going to be like the most soulless thing ever.
Don't you? I mean, maybe it's just me, but I think this is worse than when LeBron did the Big Three thing in Miami.
It is.
Because first off, the Heat weren't coming off a championship just 2 years prior when they all joined up. And they had just lost in Game 7 of the finals the year. I mean, this is worse, right?
I think it's worse because as much as people, have a problem with the Big Three thing, at the same time, they still built a team. They built a team like a 13-year-old playing fantasy basketball, but they still built a team. Whereas Kevin Durant, it's not like Kevin Durant went to the sad sack Warriors and was like, okay, let's build a team around me. No, he went to a championship caliber team just like me too.
Yeah, that's the thing. The Warriors were just as legitimate a championship contender before Kevin Durant got there as they are. I don't know that their odds changed that much. Sure, they're more of a favorite now than they were, but they were still a favorite before he ever got there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just kind of ridiculous. Yeah, they're 50-9 right now. So so far it seems to be working out.
The Oklahoma City Thunder are hanging on. Come on, Thunder.
Yeah,
I'm doubly pulling for the Thunder now.
Oh, absolutely,
I want them.
man, absolutely. And Russell Westbrook, almost averaging a triple-double this year. But yeah, I don't know. I get it if Oakland fans or whatever. I don't even know. Like, I guess they represent Oakland. I'm imagining, and that's their market. But good for them. That's their team. And you can't blame them for rooting for their team. I'm fine with that. I get it. But outside of that, how can you look at that team and go, I want to see these guys win? I mean, this is worse than the Patriots, if you ask me.
I mean, this team went from being like the underdog of the NBA that everyone made fun of to suddenly people were happy they were good. And now they're just the Yankees of basketball.
Yeah. It's just not the same. And I look, nobody was crazy about the LeBron thing. And believe me, around here, I can vouch for that personally. But
it got a bit ridiculous. But the Durant thing, I think, is just way worse. LeBron, I get it. LeBron said, okay, Cleveland just can't put it together, and I need to move along, and that's fine. Plus, and to his defense, he had lived under the spotlight of Northeast Ohio his entire life. Maybe he just wanted a change. I think he put it really well when he came back to the Cavs and he did that story in Sports Illustrated to sort of announce his intentions. He was like, look, I was drafted into the NBA right out of high school. I never went to college. I never went to university. And so I never had that chance to sort of leave home and kind of explore who I was. And that was kind of what I had to do. Yeah. And I can understand that.
And I'm going to say this too. I don't think a team was, now Dwayne Wade was still, at the top of his Dwayne Wade game. Mm-hmm. Chris Bosh, pretty solid player, but that's all they had. And then they had a bunch of stiffs on the bench. This wasn't like LeBron showed up when there was Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, and I forget the other guy. Like their four main guys. This wasn't the situation LeBron stepped into. I mean, they weren't a good team when they joined up with the Heat. So yeah, you don't like it either way. But of the two, Durant's is just so. I don't know. There's just no justifying it to me, and not to mention the fact that your old team, the Thunder, had the Warriors down 3-1 last year. I mean, to me, it's like, let's go one more time at them and beat them this time. Not, I'm going to go join these guys. I don't know.
The Thunder were still in a position to contend. It's just really weird.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's just, But Durant, I love that. There's a picture of him wearing a Patriots t-shirt.
The next chapter of my journey.
And then right after that, he will sign with the New York Yankees, and
there's another one
complete
I saw
the trifecta.
When I did the search for that picture, there was another one that had him wearing a Cubs t-shirt.
I don't think we're quite there with the Cubs just yet. Cubs are still. Okay. Real quick while we're bringing them up, have you seen any backlash against the Cubs so far? I haven't. I mean,
no. I don't think it's going to be immediate.
I think they've handled themselves very well. I think that's why.
I don't think it's going to be a fan thing, because I think we can speak from experience with the Blackhawks fans who we interact with, just that even when Chicago fans are winning, they're still pretty dour. So
right.
So they're not going to become Red Sox fans, where they went from like the team that the fan base that everyone wanted to see do well to suddenly obnoxious pricks, because I don't think Chicago fans are going to become obnoxious pricks. I think the thing that will eventually turn people against the Cubs is just going to be overexposure, because now that they've broken the curse, now that they are like the most marketable baseball team in the world,
right?
So I sort of down at Tampa, like the day after they won the World Series, you had even stores down here were flooded with World Series champion Cubs merchandise. So they're pretty marketable. I don't think it'll be the fan base. The fan base, I think, will remain as depressed and dour as ever. That's not going to change. But what's going to happen is that they're going to Fox, ESPN.
Right.
They're going to over promote them to the point that everyone's just sick and tired of seeing them. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, but you're right. I agree with you. The fans won't be the reason why people turn on them, because if you remember, Red Sox fans did not handle their victory in 2004 with a lot of class.
No, they are the reason why I hate Boston sports fans even more than the Bruins. The Bruins bitch slapped my Maple Leafs right out of the playoffs in the most heartbreaking way possible.
Yeah, that was a gut punch, definitely.
And then I did a show immediately right afterward. But yeah, so it's not even the Bruins. The thing that pisses me off about Boston sports fans, it's the Red Sox fan base,
right.
Because they went from being that fan base that you wish the best for them and you wanted to see their team do well, and as soon as that happened, they just became the most obnoxious Ben Affleck Boston movie stereotypes that you could imagine.
Yeah, and I think the Cubs fans have handled themselves with class, and by this time of the year in 2005, people already hated the Red Sox. I mean, just hated them. And I have seen none of that with the Cubs so far, which is great. That's cool. The Rams will be evolving their identity for 2017-2018 seasons. They confirmed new uniforms for 2019. We knew all that. A little bit more of the gold is finding its way out of the uniform in the pants. So they've got a vote up. You can vote for a set of pants with a solid blue stripe or a pair with two blue stripes and a white in the middle.
Well, the first thing they did was a few weeks back they announced that their new primary would be devoid of all gold.
Good.
Let me see if I can. Actually,
how did they get away with that?
Because the jerseys aren't changing. So the jerseys aren't changing. So so basically, they're just saying the primary won't have gold on it. The logo with gold that appears on the jersey is just an alternate.
All right.
Yeah.
So essentially, then they're getting rid of so they're going to go to the white horned helmets again now, or what?
We don't know. They haven't announced anything
because
about that.
That's
yet.
what I was curious about. I know they can do pretty much whatever they want with the pants. That's not a big deal. What I wasn't sure of is whether or not they could change the helmet. Can they go from the gold horns to the white? And if they do, well, this is as close as I'm probably going to get to my beloved blue and whites if this all takes place, which will be great. But if they... I get what they're going for by getting rid of the gold because that's a St. Louis thing, and I understand it. But if they can't do better than what they did during that color rush game last year, don't bother.
I think the plan is to just eliminate as much of the gold as possible.
Right.
Eliminate as much of the gold as the league says that they're allowed to. Without violating the NFL's uniform rules. So get rid as much gold as possible until 2019 when they unveil their new uniforms, which will probably be athletic gold and royal.
Yeah.
I had to guess.
With the blue and white alternate is my guess, too.
Yeah. And so I think they're going with blue and white here because, basically they couldn't rebrand. And so I think their thinking is, all right, if we have to wear the St. Louis uniform for 3 years, in what way can we minimize the St. Louisness? And I think it's just emphasizing navy and white.
Right.
Because that is a Rams color scheme. So an LA Rams color scheme. So I think they're going to try to be blue and white as much as possible until 2019, and then they'll switch to blue and athletic gold. So my question is, which one of these pants options did you vote for?
Well, my gut instinct right out of the gate, I went with B because I like the double stripe. But now that I look at it more, I kind of went man, I should have gone with A, but I'm sticking with B.
I went with B. I feel pretty solid about that. My problem with A is that it includes 2 silver stripes along the blue stripe.
Okay.
And my thinking on that is that this uniform still, the jerseys are still going to have gold. And I think that blue, white, gold, and silver is a bit much. So I went for the option that didn't have silver.
Yeah. I didn't see that they had silver. I thought it was just there it is. Yeah, now let me take a closer look. But, yeah, I mean, if, I think even with the white horns on the helmet would work with the little bit of gold that's left, but they can't do the gray face mask, as much as I hate to say it. You've almost got to go with a different, I don't know, blue maybe? But that might be too dark. I don't know, but they've got to be very careful about how they handle this, because as we saw with that Color Rush uniform last year, the wrong combination of this can just be an absolute disaster. All you've done is you've emphasized the worst parts of every bit of every uniform you've ever had by doing that. Well, it didn't look good at all.
Well, hypothetically, okay, so the Rams did not look good when they wore the white horns, but in their defense, they were pairing it with a uniform that was still very much blue and gold.
Right.
Now that they're dropping the gold from their pants, I'm interested in seeing it again just to see how it looks now that there's no gold on the pants. Maybe it ties together a bit more.
Yeah, you hope. But then again, though, if you're going to keep the gold in the jerseys, well, then you really haven't changed much, though. I mean, you're taking the gold out of the pants, and so what?
The goal is to just minimize gold as much as possible. Yeah. That's the goal.
I think the NFL, I think the NFL should just let them go to the throwbacks. Make that
The problem is that the Rams want to hold off on that until 2019, when they can kind of marry it to the big stadium opening.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I don't know. For what it is, I mean, I know that the gold will stay on the jerseys. It has to, because of the way NFL uniform rules work. But I kind of like this. It's a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I know the white horns looked bad last season, but again, the pants are now going to be gold free, and I'm interested in seeing if the white horns will look better, because they're going to tie into more of the uniform now, and maybe it'll work.
If they're allowed to go with the white horns, I'm not even sure if they're allowed to change the helmet like that.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. That might be too much.
But you know what, though? If they stay with the gold horns, though, this isn't going to look bad. I mean, taking the gold out of the pants isn't going to hurt anything. That's the nice thing about it. I'm with you. I'd like to see them. I'd like to see it work. I think taking the gold out of the pants is definitely a step in the right direction. But they are so half pregnant right now, because they don't want to use those St. Louis colors. They're stuck with them. Unless they decide to do a rebrand before they're ready to do it, which would be, when they open the new stadium. So that's where they are. They're just between a rock and a hard place, so to speak.
Here's the press release the team put out. Last season, the team wore white uniforms at home as a modern nod to the days of the fearsome foursome in the team's history at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Building upon last year, the Rams are seeking their fans' help with a decision on the new uniform, specifically the pants. In 2017, the team's pants will be white with one or two blue stripes. The change removes the gold from the team pants and follows the blue and white logo that the team will be using moving forward. The Rams will continue to wear the white jerseys worn in 2016, which contains navy and hints of gold. The team is continuing to explore a full rebrand, including new uniforms that will be unveiled in 2019. Interestingly, they didn't say anything about the helmets.
Yeah.
Which says to me that they're at least considering going with the white horns, if the league will let them.
I think it could work. If you really, because they're going to de-emphasize the gold as much as they can possibly get away with. Mm-hmm. And taking the gold out of the pants, I think you're right. I think we could see a better matchup, which would be good. And oh, man, that would be nice. I mean, I just wish I could get rid of the gold, because I would just so love, even just for one season, to see the blue and whites come back. Because like I've said, I've never actually seen them in action. I barely remember them as a kid, but my whole love of them is based on pictures. I'd love to see them in action just once. Well, I've seen like NFL film stuff than that, but
I think at the very least, when they go with athletic gold and blue in 2019, they will have a completely pure blue and white alternate, so you'll at least get to see it a few times.
Yeah, that'll be great. But it's I'm glad to see they're trying to do it. I like that they're getting away from the St. Louis thing, because but the thing is too, I always thought that the St. Louis uniform color scheme looked better outdoors, and we never really got a chance to see it outdoors because they're like, we don't want to do this. So they're going to wear white. You're going to get it for 8 home games, and most of the time on the road too. So you're never going to really get a chance
unless they play
it.
the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. But while we're on rebrands, there's we've got the Detroit thing coming up, and one of our guys on the boards, Brandon Moore, I thought did a really nice concept that I would like to see the Lions go in that direction. Did you see it?
It was a nice concept. I still have no idea what direction the team's going in. The only thing I know for sure is that the black is being dropped.
Yep.
Which is a good move, but again, it's Nike, so they could drop the black and then still deliver something absolutely horrid. And I liked what you said, that the helmet will be a monstrosity that they describe as some sort of fusion between the automotive industry and the plains of Africa.
Right. We have a good track record on the show of calling Nike speak. I forget what uniform it was, but it was like they had taken what you had said on the show and almost transcribed it verbatim.
Yeah, I forget the exact. All of Nike's bullshit uniform unveilings have blended together in my mind. I can't keep track of them anymore.
I just remember reading that release and I'm going, oh my God, they stole Mike's bit here, because it was like exactly what you said. I was like, this is incredible. But yeah,
my favorite case of it was because for the NCAA. They have templates basically, right? They have templates that if you're one of the high profile teams, you kind of get your own design, but if not, they give you a catalog, right?
Right.
And you just sort of pick from that. Well, I remember like both the Huskies and the Razorbacks ended up going with the same template.
Yeah.
That had like these little triangle shaped squares of like triangle pieces of color, like near the collar. And I think it was Washington who unveiled theirs first. And the Nike speak was like, these represent the iconic spikes of Husky Stadium. And then when Arkansas unveiled theirs, like a few months later, like, again, it's the exact same jersey template. It's the exact same design element. And Nike was like, these represent the fearsome tusks of a Razorback.
Right.
And it's like, Nike, no, they don't.
I'm so tired of the bullshit that they try to put with these uniforms. Why not? Like
why can't it just be like,
here's Detroit's new uniform. What do you think?
Yeah. Why can't it just, because even if they don't fuck it up, even if they do everything right.
Oh, even if it's perfect, it's still going to be stupid what they say about it.
Yeah, it'll be like the helmet is silver to represent the chrome of the automotive industry. They can't just say, so we were redesigning the uniforms and we considered a few colors for the helmets, but, the Lions have always had silver helmets and we thought it looked good, so we kept it. Like, they can't just say that, right? Even the Maple Leafs, and the Maple Leafs weren't even a Nike thing because that was Reebok, but when the Maple Leafs unveiled their uniform, their new logo, which is kind of a updated throwback of the old logo, they came out with this whole list of bullshit about what all of the elements represented. It's like, there are 13 veins on the leaf to represent the 13 cups, and there's like however many spikes to represent this, that, or the other thing.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, can't you just say, we all liked the old logo, but it needed to be cleaned up a bit, so we did that, and here it is.
Right. Well, you remember the clown show that the Browns unveiling was? I mean, that stupid orange stitching they had. I forget what the reasoning was.
It represented the craftsmanship of Cleveland.
Right, exactly. It's like,
what was great was like the 2 weeks beforehand, because they unveiled the logo 2 weeks before the uniforms, right? And so the logo, of course, was just the helmet, which mostly was unchanged, but it had a brown face mask. And they're like, here's the new logo. And I remember that description was hilarious. It was hilarious because it was like, the brown has been changed to reflect a contemporary and gritty Cleveland brown.
Uh-huh.
No, it was the orange. The orange was changed.
Right.
And they're like, orange, the new orange represents the passion of the dog pound.
That's what it was, exactly. The passion of the dog pound.
And it's like, orange represents the passion of the dog pound. And then just like one sentence, the brown remains unchanged.
and then when the jerseys, when they release the entire uniform, that the craftsmanship of Cleveland because of the stitching.
The contrasting stitching, yeah.
Okay, so that's almost an insult. It's like the craftsmanship of Cleveland is that you can run a sewing machine. I mean, come on. I don't know, but you know that's...
Like, okay, I know Cleveland's a Rust Belt city, but, like, okay, when I think of... If I think of American industry, I think automotive industry, okay, that's Detroit. Steel industries, Pittsburgh. Like, I don't want to bash Cleveland, but, like, I've never really thought of Cleveland as, like, this heavy manufacturing center. And I'm sure it's got a history of manufacturing, but there's not one industry that really stands out, you know? Like, there's nothing
steel and automotive, basically.
Okay, so it's halfway between Pittsburgh and Detroit, so I guess that makes sense.
Right, yeah. It's a lot of steel, a lot of automotive.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it's like the entire Midwest basically, but they don't have, like Toledo, same thing. I don't think like Buffalo, I suppose, to a lesser extent, but Pittsburgh hangs their hat on the steel, Detroit on the automotive industry, and everybody else is kind of like we do a little bit of everything, and that's Cleveland. But the craftsmanship and contrasting stitching, really? That's come on. But yeah, my concern now is that they're going to try to be consistent and have the contrasting stitching with the Lions too, because that's Detroit, right? So yeah.
Okay, if Cleveland gets contrasting stitching because of their heavy industry, then obviously Detroit should, right?
Well, what scares me the most about the Detroit unveiling is that you've got an animal from Africa in the automotive industry, and damn good and well they're going to try to combine the two somehow.
Oh,
and that's where it's just going to turn into absolute poetry.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Jaguars helmet was nothing compared to what this has the potential to be. It's a Jaguar emerging from the shadows. Lurking in the shadows was what they said.
It was a mentally challenged Jaguar. It was diving into the dark to go hunting. Yeah. But that's what concerns me. But I think that I'd love to see a Minnesota Buffalo style update for the Lions, but I'm afraid, like I said on the boards, it's going to be like the helmet's going to have one giant lion on one side of it. Stupid ass vertical stripe, just a bunch of stupid shit. I hope not.
My saving grace thing that I'm holding out hope for is that the Lions are owned by Ford, right?
Yep.
Ford seems like a very image conscious, kind of a traditional company when it comes to their branding.
Definitely.
Like, Ford branding has not changed much since World War II.
Well, I mean, even if you look at like the cars that they make and the trucks, a lot of, like, you've got GM, which of course has a bunch of subsidiaries, but Ford basically has, okay, we got 3 cars, we got a couple of trucks. This is what we do. That's it. And hopefully the Lions will. I just don't want to see like the Tampa Bay Lions, or you know what I mean, or the Detroit Buccaneers. I want to see
where they have some stupid like stripes have been replaced by jagged blocks of color, and it's just
they're not real lions, okay? And so let's not pretend that they are. But it'll be interesting, and I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the worst, as you always do with a Nike rebrand. But you just don't know, and I think the fact that they've reduced themselves to glow-in-the-dark uniforms for Oregon, that's got to signal. That's got to be a signal that like they have the wells run dry on the crazy stuff, and the pendulum's got to be swinging back towards good taste, right? We were positive they were going to go with. If you remember back in college during college football season, we were convinced they were going to go with glow-in-the-dark uniforms for football. And I'm surprised it took them this long. That's the first thing.
They're doing it for basketball. It's only a matter of time before they roll it out with football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it didn't happen with football already. And the LED helmet's coming soon to an Oregon game near you. I promise you, where it's going to light up and shit and shoot lasers out of it and all that other stuff. I promise.
I know we talked about it last time, but I never miss an opportunity to bash Nike and Oregon. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great that the 2 times the Oregon Ducks have played in the national championship game, they've worn Nike monstrosities that have no hints of their team color, and they've lost both times.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, Oregon? Next time, wear green and gold, and maybe you'll win.
Well, didn't they, when they played Auburn, they at least had those crazy Volt socks, didn't they?
It was Volt, yes.
But
it was Volt, but it was hilarious because the end zone was done up in the traditional green and gold. And all of the Oregon fans in the stands were wearing green and gold. But then they came out in 5 different types of charcoal and volt.
Well, and when they played,
didn't match anything.
When they played Ohio State in 2014 or 15, whatever it was, they looked like the freaking Raiders.
Yes.
I mean, they had the white jerseys, silver helmet, silver pants, black. It was just like they looked like the Oakland Raiders. They looked. I mean, that not a bit of their school colors at all, anywhere on the whole uniform. It was amazing.
So I'm convinced now that, Oregon has a curse, and if they ever want to win a national title, the next time they get to that game, they've got to wear their proper uniforms.
I guess so. All right. Anyway, we got anything else? I figure we'll save the other conversation we were talking about for next week with Zach, because we've already got a good hour and a half in here. So
sounds good.
And I guess we never got to the Oscars either, which I don't know what to say about it other than I just thought it was hysterical. It just cracked me
that's
up.
right. That's right up there with Steve Harvey announcing the wrong. Was it Miss America?
Yeah, Miss Universe. I think it was
Miss Universe. Yeah,
it was incredible. The only thing I'll say about it is that I really feel bad for the Moonlight people, because they didn't really. I mean, they won, and that's great, and they got they were the rightful winners, and everything was corrected, but they never got their "oh my God, we won" moment. It was kind of like, "Oh, whoops, we fucked up. Hey, you guys, you actually won."
Apparently, and I don't know how true this is, so everyone, don't freak out if this turns out not to be true, but I had heard that apparently the guy who was in charge of handing off the envelopes to the presenter was busy. He was busy tweeting on his phone.
I'd heard that too.
And he gave the presenters the wrong envelope.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Which is just, I don't know. That's part of me thinks that's amazing. The other part of me is just shaking. I'm just shaking my head. But
you had one job. You pull an envelope out of a briefcase. That's all you had to do, and you fucked it up.
This answers my question though of what they'll do in a mistake, because I had just assumed that there had been 5 mistakes up until this point, but they all just ran with it.
Like when Crash won the Best Picture.
Yeah, right. There's no way. I had been operating under the assumption that Crash was a mistake, but they just didn't want to look stupid, so they ran with it.
Yeah, he had one job: take the envelope out, hand it to the presenter, and that's it. And you couldn't get it right, but I don't know if it teaches you anything. Between that and the year in sports, don't walk away from anything until it's over, because you never know what might happen.
Atlanta.
Yeah. God.
Speaking of which, I still think they need to blow it up.
Probably.
There's it's what Olbermann said about the Seahawks times 100. Because at least the Seahawks.
Way worse.
Oh, this is way worse. And so there is so much stank on this team. They need to. I know they've got a young, promising team of a great coaching staff. Doesn't matter. They got to fire all the coaching staff. They've got to trade or release everyone. They've got to change the uniforms. It's the only way. They've got to flush everything out and start again.
Like I thought when we talked about when we did the Super Bowl show, my biggest concern when they had that 28-3 lead is they're never going to change these uniforms now, because they're going to win a Super Bowl in it. But now at least there's that.
Well, now they not only is that hope still alive. In many ways, you could argue that changing their uniforms is now more likely, because now these are the uniforms associated with the biggest choke job ever.
Oh yeah, if you're a uniform geek like us and you don't, and you just don't really have a dog in the fight, you're thrilled, because you're like, oh man, the throwbacks have got to be coming back now, right?
Now another person I actually feel better for John Elway now, actually, because he's got his 2 Super Bowls, so he's good there. But the thing that I had always felt bad about John Elway was watching those old NFL films where they would talk about the game against Washington, the Super Bowl against Washington, where they blew a 10-point lead, and up until that point, a 10-point lead, that was the biggest deficit ever overcome in the Super Bowl.
Wow.
And watching those NFL films, and even as a Chargers fan, I just felt bad watching those John Elway films. It was like, oh man, he was up 10 points, he had it, and then he lost it. That sucks. And of course, he won a Super Bowl. He won 2 Super Bowls regardless, so that took the sting out of that. But still, John Elway is not the owner of the biggest choke job in Super Bowl history anymore.
No, I think that one's. And I don't know that. I would never guess this was going to happen, so I can't really say this, but I can't imagine anybody ever coming back from any deficit bigger than that. I mean, a Super Bowl, right? I mean, how much worse can it get? I don't know.
Well, now Matt Ryan may win a Super Bowl, but it won't be as a Falcon.
Yeah, I got to think that's just a tough one to overcome, man. I don't.
It's blow it all up.
Probably
blow it all up
and bring those throwbacks back. The sooner the better.
Actually, I can't. You know what? We really should make that conversation with Headley happen. I want to hear as a fan.
Yeah.
Not just as a Falcons fan, but as a Falcons fan who paid $10,000 to be there. I want to hear I want to hear what he thinks about all this, about, blowing up the team.
I think he would disagree with it, but he has agreed to come on the show. He was busy for the first few weeks after the Super Bowl, probably working overtime to make the money back, I would guess. But he has agreed.
$10,000 well spent.
Yeah, he did agree to come on, so we'll get him on here in the next few weeks. Speaking of the next few weeks, I keep forgetting to bring this up, but we are in shouting distance now of the 2017 Glorious Tournament of Victory, folks.
My bracket is not done yet, but it is almost there.
I've just gotten started on mine, and I will just say that the Oscars did provide an entry from my bracket this year. And I'm changing the name of the it will no longer be the What It Means to Be a Cleveland Brown region. It's going to be changed. Like Nike, it will stay in the spirit of the What It Means to Be a Cleveland Brown region, but not exactly that. It's going to change, but we will stick with the inspiration where it came from, I guess is the best way to put it. So anyway, I guess we're going to call it a night. You got anything else before we go?
No, just that the Sentinel Prime Memorial Region of Excellence will remain named as such. We've got to honor the late Sentinel Prime, who gave his life for freedom in the galaxy. So there we go.
All right. You can follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports, Spreaker, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. And you can find us on Facebook. And with that, we are done. We'll see you next time.
Later.